I remember actually one day being round at my grandparents' house, coming back, news was on at like 6 o'clock, and they had said that it moved from just being in China, and I think it was at that point they were kind of like following it in Italy, and I can remember thinking, oh, that's not good. Like China's one thing, the other side of the world, but Italy's not too far from us. So I carried on in the gym. Everyone was, talking about it. It was becoming like the kind of buzzword that was on everyone's lips at the time. And, everyone was thinking, how's this going to affect, everybody's day-to-day life, but also like in a sporting context, what's this going to mean for the Olympic Games? And, it was really interesting that I can remember sitting with Sergey in the gym at Loughborough and saying to him once, Sergey, like, what happens if World War III breaks out and we've trained our whole life for the Olympic Games and it just doesn't happen? And I'd kind of laugh and he'd laugh, but I actually thought, what happens? I've committed my whole life to this dream to go to the Olympic Games, try and win a gold medal. What are we going to do if the Olympic Games doesn't exist, And essentially that's what unfolded over the next few months. And I think it was early March. At the time, I'd been living with my grandparents for 10 months. So I'd lived with my grandparents for 10 months. I think going into that week, it had been my granddad's 80th birthday. So we'd had his 80th birthday. And on the Monday, my plan was to move back in with my mum and dad. So after his birthday, we had a great celebration. The Monday morning, I moved all my stuff back in to live with my mum and dad. My brother had just moved over to Australia at the time. And pretty much within that 2 weeks, we went into lockdown. And I can remember it being a really strange feeling. Everybody kind of scrambled to get gym equipment to try and carry on training at home. And at that point, we really didn't know when we'd get back in the gym. And like I was saying before, my training was going really well. So I was preparing for the British Championships, the English Championships, which would have been the trials for the Olympic Games that year in Tokyo. Now, at this point, I think it's important to say I'm not on the Great Britain team. So I got taken off the Great Britain team the year before. Still had hopes of trying to get back onto that team. I was fully committed, wanted to do everything I could to get back onto the GB setup. But I was kind of thinking, I'm going to give it my best shot at these trials. You never know, I could pull off a miracle and somehow qualify for the Olympic Games team. But realistically, I knew at that point that was a long shot. But I still did, in the back of my head, I had a bit of self-belief that I could pull that off. But at this point, we're now going into lockdown. The Olympic Games kind of gets thrown out the window. Everyone's life goes into disarray. And I can remember driving to the gym because Josh at the gym, the head coach, had said, like, we're not allowed back in the gym from tomorrow. So if anyone wants any equipment, they need to come and get it now. So I said, Josh, can I get a pommel mushroom? Because I was thinking, if I'm at home for a long time, I'm going to need something. That's probably the only piece of equipment I could realistically do any gymnastics on at home. So I took a pommel mushroom, I took some weights, some parallettes to work out on, and I kind of like packed it in the car. And I remember hugging Josh and just not knowing when we were going to see each other again. It was really weird. Drove back, and then, that next day we were into lockdown.